With the 37th pick in the draft by way of the Denver Broncos, the Seattle Seahawks select the outside linebacker from Auburn, Derick Hall. I am Tenitra, Batiste, and we have Locked On Seahawks host Corbin Smith with us. And this Locked On NFL Draft coverage is presented by Ultimate Football GM. You think you can run an NFL franchise? Visit ultimate-gm.com to play the ultimate NFL GM simulation game. Start your dynasty today. So, Corbin, first reaction when you saw that the Seattle Seahawks were trading up to go and get a guy in Derick Hall, who's the outside linebacker, one of the pure talents out of the SEC.
Yeah, Hall was actually picked with their native selection they got from the Broncos. They didn't trade up for him, but this is a player that I had ranked at number 43 on my draft board, so this is about the sweet spot for him. He is a very disruptive run defender, had 24 tackles for loss the last 2 years for Auburn, one of the blue blood programs in the SEC. Also a player that has proven to be a much better pass rusher the last 2 years, finished with 19.5 sacks, most of those coming in his last 2 seasons. Two-time All-SEC performer. And what really stands out about this kid, he has an incredible motor, relentless play after play. Sometimes it becomes cliche when we hear this, but this kid, his game is predicated on playing to the whistle, never giving in, and that comes back from his background. This is a guy that was actually born premature. There was questions about him surviving, and now here he is being a second-round pick in the NFL draft. So an incredible story, great grit, toughness, and a really solid power rusher that's going to bring a little different look to Seattle's edge rushing group.
Yeah, and you mentioned something that I think is important, and it's that whole power piece that you need to be able to be kind of that dip and rip guy, and also just to be able to build that momentum because you've got the speed and the power that's coming together. And then you've got a guy in someone like a Bobby Wagner who can be who still has a lot left in the tank. So I don't want to be disrespectful and not say that, but also being able to mentor a young guy like Derick Hall. So how important is it to have someone like him, to have some veterans there to be able to bring him up to speed with this organization who's probably looking for him to make some type of immediate impact?
Yeah, anytime you bring in a player like Hall, who was a captain himself at Auburn last year, he's got some of those leadership intangibles already. But this is a great opportunity for him to continue learning from somebody like Bobby Wagner or Quandre Diggs in the secondary, the veteran leaders of this football team. And he could be a candidate a couple years down the road to take that torch from those players and become one of Seattle's leaders on defense 2024, 2025. And that seems to be a big theme for the Seahawks in this draft. They're not just looking for the guys that have grit and toughness, which has always been staples for their scouting, but they're also looking for leadership intangibles. And again, he was named by teammates as a captain at Auburn last year. High honor, one of the blue blood programs in the SEC. That had to be something that really jumped out of the Seahawks. They're getting a guy that's not just an explosive athlete off the edge, was really productive, disruptive in the backfield, but also somebody that they can count on is going to make smart decisions off the field and is going to be able to pick up the play of his teammates with his leadership ability.
Now, the Seahawks were not bashful in saying that, hey, we want to go defense, start to shore up that defense, of course, going with Devin Witherspoon in that first round. But as you look, Corbin, at the remaining rounds, the remaining picks that the Seahawks have in this draft, where do you expect them to go from here?
They've still got a massive hole in the middle with little depth at defensive tackle, and I think that pick has got to be coming soon, whether that's at pick 52 or in the third round with pick number 83. Maybe they're used to moving around to acquire an additional pick, but there's slim pickings at that position. There's 4 or 5 players at the top, and then there's a big drop-off. Several of those guys are still on the board as we speak, so they've got an opportunity to still address that, but they need to get aggressive now looking at defensive tackles and really improve that interior defensive line after finishing 31st against the run last year. That is a crucial area that they are going to have to shore up here in this draft, and they're going to have to make that move here soon with their upcoming picks.
Yeah, and when you think about how competitive the NFC West continues to be, definitely something that the Seahawks want to look at shoring up so that they can be right there in the thick of things and possibly get themselves back in the position to contend to get to and maybe go a little deeper in the playoffs. So for more on the Seahawks draft, follow Locked On Seahawks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much, Corbin. And of course, enjoy the rest of this draft 2023.